Getting ready to get out of here. I'm not going to be here long. Good morning. Sunday morning, October the 25th. Um, I went over the indictment. Here's the indictment for Chauncey Billups. It's not even for Chauncey Billups. The bulk of the indictment centers around uh, the mob and fringe players that were working with the mob to run these poker games where they were setting dudes up and taking their money, cheating. That's the extent of the indictment. Chauncey Billups is mentioned one time in the indictment. Once. Chauncey Billups is mentioned for being at one poker game
Getting customers to trust you can be challenging.
in Las Vegas.
Your home is your business address. But renting an office space is expensive, and most virtual office addresses cost an arm and a leg. So, what are your options? Well, at iPostal One, we've got you covered.
He's mentioned one time in the indictment for being at a poker game in Las Vegas in April of 2019, where a couple of the fringe players were using a rigged shuffler machine. He's mentioned once. Now, let me be clear. This is coming from the indictment, and you can get this online at pacer.com, where I got it from. The indictment is dated October the 9th, 2025, Eastern District of New York. Indictment number CR 1:25 CR 00314. It would seem to me that if Chauncey Billups was so interwoven and so interconnected with this activity, that his name would be mentioned more than one time for one incident in April of 2019 in Las Vegas, attending a poker game where 5 other dudes were using a rigged shuffling machine, and they beat a player out of $50,000. That's it. That's the only time Chauncey Billups is mentioned in this indictment. Now, let me be clear. Could there be other dates and other instances where Chauncey Billups was involved with other games? Yes. Could there be other evidence showing that Chauncey Billups was a little more uh, interwoven and involved in the criminal activity? Yes. Could that evidence be in the discovery or in other evidence that the Eastern District of New York hasn't put out yet? Yes. But to me, number one, after covering the Puffy trial, I'm a little skeptical about what the feds say in their indictments. Number one. Number two, I'm a little skeptical about the evidence that they have. Um, and number three, like I say, if Chauncey was really wrapped up with these dudes, they would have put the Eastern District of New York would have put a lot of more detail in the indictment. In the indictment, not what they say on ESPN, not what they say on ABC, not what they say on Pardon the Interruption, not what Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley say and Ernie Johnson and Kenny Smith on TNT, not what they say on NBA TV, not what they say in the mainstream media. I don't give a fuck what nobody says in no media, nowhere. What matters and what matters most is what's in the indictment and what is the evidence. Most of the people that are talking about this case are talking about the case from a fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh hand-me-down interpretation of what they heard on television. Very few people take the time to pull down the actual document and read it. This is the same thing that went on in the Puffy case. The same thing with the Puffy case is the media convicted Puffy in the media before he even went to trial. And after Puffy went to trial and the evidence came out proving that he was an innocent man, then all of y'all had to backtrack and accept that you didn't know what you were talking about, that you were going off of fifth and sixth hand information. All I'm saying is that in this document, Chauncey Billups is mentioned once, yet he has a wire fraud charge and a money laundering charge. His only role, as described in the indictment, is they call a face card, where he goes to the poker game and he sits there and he plays so that the other people at the table could say, oh snap, that's Chauncey Billups from the world champion Detroit Pistons, NBA player. And they can feel special about sitting down playing poker with an NBA player. That's what his role was. Now, I would think if Chauncey had a more serious role, if he was really intricately involved, it would be spelled out in this indictment as to the exact behavior, the exact actions, the exact movements, the exact movements of the exact movements of Chauncey Billups, and it would be clear that he had a bigger role within this indictment. But that's not what happened. The New York Mafia was controlling this whole thing. And I highly doubt that the mob is gonna let some NBA dude make decisions and get intricately interwoven into their scheme. No, no. I don't know. This is just pure speculation. Maybe Chauncey Billups did not know what was going on with the rigged shuffler machine. Maybe he was paid an appearance fee to show up at the game. Maybe he went to the game to play. The game was in Las Vegas. Chauncey's game, the game Chauncey is mentioned in, took place in Las Vegas, where gambling is legal, where there are hundreds of home games, there are hundreds of private games. This is the gambling mecca, Las Vegas. That's where Chauncey Billups is mentioned in this indictment. And the game that Chauncey was in, the guy lost $50,000. If you pull down the indictment, page 9, paragraph 40. Page 9, paragraph 40. For example, in furtherance of the rigged poker scheme in or around April 2019, several of the defendants participated in rigged games in Las Vegas, Nevada, at which they defrauded victims of at least $50,000. The defendants, Chauncey Billups, Eric Ernest, Jamie Gillette, Robert Stroud, and Sophia Way, organized and participated in these rigged games using a rigged shuffling machine supplied by Stroud. So, in the language in the indictment, they're using the plural, rigged games, multiple games. It's not game. It does not say several of the defendants participated in a rigged game in Las Vegas. It says several of the defendants participated in rigged games with an S. And Chauncey Billups is mentioned. But if it's plural, rigged games, $50,000 loss, I mean, these games weren't that big. If it's multiple. Chauncey Billups is not mentioned in any of the Washington Place games in New York City or the Lexington Ave games in New York City. The main two games that the indictment focuses on were the two games in Manhattan, in the city, the Washington Place game, and the Lexington Ave game. Chauncey Billups is not mentioned in any of those games. The other people are, but not Chauncey. Chauncey is charged with wire fraud conspiracy, count 1, along with all the other dudes. And Chauncey Billups is also charged in count 4, money laundering conspiracy. Chauncey Billups has 2 charges: wire fraud and money laundering for $50,000. If that's the extent of his charges and his involvement, like I say, I believe that if they had Chauncey as having more involvement, it would be spelled out in the indictment. Under $50,000, this is it's really not that big of a deal, but it's really not. It's not a financial crime. Well, yes, it is. It's kind of like a financial crime. I don't know, but there's not a whole lot of jail time involved with that. Who is that? RJ Jones. What up? I don't know. Let me pontificate. Let me speculate. Excuse me. Let me speculate. You know, to arrest the mob, the FBI and the Eastern District of New York and the feds, you know, to bust up a poker game, illegal poker game, is kind of like, you know, Dollar Tree police work to the feds. Even though the mob is involved, this is small potatoes to them. So when you can link an NBA player of popularity like a Chauncey Billups and put their name in there, you know, it adds a little, the case becomes more sexy. It becomes more sexy, right? That's the bra and the panties of the case. Let's put an NBA player in there. Let's put an actor in there. Let's put a rapper in there. Let's put an actress in there. Why they chose Chauncey, I don't know. I really don't know. I think that Chauncey, I don't know. He's lawyered up. He's gonna do his thing. I'm gonna follow the case. You know, I don't want to get into speculating about what he's gonna do and what he should do, because, oh man, because I don't really know the case until it comes out. But one thing I do know is that everything they said about Puff, everything they said about Puff was a lie. And Puff got proven innocent in court. I know Chauncey's name is mentioned in the other case with Terry Rozier. I don't know what's going on with that, you know, but let's just keep moving and see what happens. All right, talk to y'all later. Peace.